Adrian Martinez was a great quarterback for Nebraska. I don't mean good, I mean great. And there are people that say that the reason Nebraska lost so many games while he was quarterback is because of him and his bad decision making. But those folks are wrong. Flat out, factually incorrect. I'm Don Collins. This is the Don Collins Show. And although Adrian Martinez will surely never see this video, his fans, hopefully you're one of them, will also never forget the time he played at Nebraska and how Nebraska lost a lot of games despite his best efforts. Before we talk about Adrian Martinez, I want to remind you that we're getting close to 1,000 subscribers to this channel. When we get there, if you have subscribed to this channel and emailed me your mailing address, you're going to get something in the mail, something Husker related. It could be an autographed trading card, for example, like a Casey Thompson 2022 official autograph card. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, if you email me your mailing address, you'll get something cool. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and email me your mailing address to doncollins@mail.com. The knock against Adrian Martinez was always the same. That he was a good kid, a hard worker, he showed up first and left last. He was the kind of guy you'd want for the captain on your team, a good teammate and a friend. You want him to be your son-in-law, all the tools, elite athlete, could make all the throws, but, and there was always that but at the end, but he just didn't know how to put it all together. And in crunch time, just seemed to make mistakes at the worst possible moments in games. And if not for Adrian Martinez, Nebraska would have won, and then insert the games Nebraska supposedly would have won with Adrian Martinez not at quarterback. Now, the people that made those arguments, they thought they were saying something. They really thought they'd stumbled across some evidence that would explain why Nebraska was so terrible while he was quarterback and got worse every year. The problem is, anecdotal sort of opinions have nothing to do with what actually happened on the field while he was quarterback, or, as you'll see in a moment, what happened after he was gone. Because the very people who said the reason Nebraska didn't win games because of his bad decision making or interceptions he threw or whatever are the very same people who have been silent on Casey Thompson. It's amazing. All of the same arguments used about Adrian Martinez, you could make the very same arguments about Casey Thompson, and yet somehow the Adrian Martinez haters have been silent. That's interesting because if you look at the chart on the screen right now, I've got the statistics. One is the average for Adrian Martinez while quarterback at Nebraska, and the other is Casey Thompson's numbers, actual numbers in 2022. Now you'll notice you can't tell those apart. That's because these are both good quarterbacks with basically the same skill sets. Both of them playing in basically the same system. And when there's one constant, and that is Casey Thompson at Nebraska, Adrian Martinez at Nebraska, and there are two variables, Casey Thompson at Texas and Adrian Martinez at Kansas State, you can look at this, and if you're an honest person, you have to come to the conclusion, and now I'll put the stats on the screen of Casey Thompson at Texas and Nebraska, and Adrian Martinez at Nebraska and at Kansas State. You have to make a conclusion here that the one constant is not the quarterback. The one constant is the school they both played at, and that's Nebraska. Because at Nebraska, both Casey Thompson and Adrian Martinez have the same stats. It is uncanny how similar those stat lines are. Of course, the one stat that's different is while Casey Thompson has a negative yardage total on the year, Adrian Martinez was averaging 500 yards a year on the ground. After 4 years at Nebraska, it was easy to make him the scapegoat. It was easy to say he was the reason Nebraska lost these games. And there are times like the Michigan game where he fumbled, you say, gosh, if only he doesn't fumble. If only that doesn't happen, Michigan doesn't win the game. But for the people that make that comment about the Michigan game specifically, what you forget is what happened after Nebraska scored to go up, and Nebraska's defense, again like a porous sieve, allowed Michigan to drive down the field and score again, putting Adrian Martinez in a very familiar position that Casey Thompson found out about himself in 2022. It was the position of being on a team that was winning or losing games by mere points, 3 or 4 or 5 points, game after game after game. There was a historical run where Nebraska had something like 9 games in a row where they lost by 1 score or less. Now, for those of you that don't think that statistic is important and is not relevant to Adrian Martinez's play on the field, well, consider that in the 1990s, the litmus test that we're all going to use to define our beliefs and opinions about any Husker team in the future, That team in the 90s was rolling up on other teams by sometimes in stretches of 10, 15, 20 games by 35-point margins of victory. Not total points scored, but margins of victory. Now, lost in a margin of victory of 5 or 6 touchdowns are interceptions or fumbles or plays or 3 and outs or whatever that are sort of ignored and forgotten because Nebraska's defense was literally a juggernaut that many people thought could have been put to use against some NFL teams. So if you're on a team that's got a 4 or 5 touchdown lead and your defense is crushing your opponent, then the mistakes that would be magnified if you were up by 3 points are going to be erased over time. Now, you may believe this video is solely about Adrian Martinez and me defending him. I mean, it's true that the horrible clock management, the terrible play calling, how many of us would watch a drive where Nebraska was running the ball effectively and then say to Adrian Martinez, and we got about 2 minutes left to go here, and we're in the lead, but why don't you throw the ball and go bombs away, play after play? How many times did we see that? Or the opposite, where Nebraska should have been passing the ball and they were running it, inexplicably. The play calling, the offensive line, the clock management was just as bad in 2021 and 2020 and 2019 and 2018 as it was in 2022. Casey Thompson's statistics bear this out. The offensive production of the team bears it out. The win and loss percentage bears it out. All of the people that blame Adrian Martinez, they're not blaming Casey Thompson. And why is that? Because we've all had that come to Jesus moment, where we're willing to shake off this notion that Scott Frost is the golden child. And whether it's Adrian Martinez or Casey Thompson or some quarterback who doesn't exist named Casey Martinez, if Nebraska doesn't fix the offensive line, get better play calling and clock management and coaching, I'm going to have to make another video next year at the end of the 2023 season where I defend Casey Thompson as being a better quarterback than people give him credit for. And I don't want to do that. And instead, I want to record a video next year that honors Casey Thompson and his efforts on the field as he leads Nebraska back to its winning ways and finishing what was started with Adrian Martinez all the way back in 2018. Thank you for watching. Take care. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I'll see you next time. Go Big Red.